protect their money against a government that seems intent on destroying it. Text TRUTH to 76626 to find out more. As this election moves forward, we just released a report that reveals our 3 favorite ideas for protecting and growing wealth during the 2024 election. These ideas are especially critical if you have an IRA or 401k. Text TRUTH to 76626. Discover ideas that are so simple and actionable, they might save your retirement. Text TRUTH to 76626 now for your free report. That's TRUTH to 76626. Standard text and data rates may apply.
5.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
U.S. stocks have clawed back some of their losses from last week. The S&P 500 rose 0.9% to recover more than a quarter of last week's rout. Technology stocks led the way as yields stabilized in the bond market. Bank stocks were also strong, following better profits than expected from Truist Financial and others. They helped offset a drop for Tesla, which announced more cuts to prices over the weekend. The Dow was up 253 points today to close at 38,239. The Nasdaq gained 169 to 15,451. The S&P 500 adding 43 points to 5010. New York oil fell 29 cents to $82.85 per barrel. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis, townhall.com. I'm Keith.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 42. Tomorrow is perfect. Bottle it up, enjoy it. All kinds of sunshine. 55 degrees as our high. We're back to 80 on Wednesday with mostly sunny skies and no rain in the forecast for the rest of the work week. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. Is 107 The Point.
Please press button now. No, that number's bigger than the one I said.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
Well, and away we go on a Monday evening all across the Palmetto State here on Sports Talk Media Network. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, boy. We've got a lot to digest over the course of the next couple of hours, and we want to do it with you on the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number at 888-898-2525. Again, that's 888-898-2525. Chris Bergen here in Florence, or as Phil likes to say, Bergie Palace over in Sardis. By the way, just between you, me, and the fence post, I'm about 10 minutes away from Sardis, but we'll let Phil have his day. Speaking of which, Corn is off tonight for Passover, so we wish all of our Jewish friends and listeners a very happy Passover and hope it is a wonderful holiday for you. So without Corn, that means we bring Smith over in Georgetown to join us here this evening. And, of course, you're welcome to be a part of the program. A lot to recap from over the weekend. Good baseball all across the state. Coastal Carolina with a nice series win over Louisiana to get right back in the thick of the race in the Sun Belt. They take 2 out of 3. Clemson keeps on doing what the Tide have been doing. They dispatch Pittsburgh 2 out of 3, and in doing so, pick up their 900th ACC regular season victory. Quite the milestone eclipsed in that Saturday win in Game 3 of the series as they take off and defeat Pittsburgh and South Carolina. Tough weekend against a very good team. Got the second game as part of that doubleheader, but could not finish off the doubleheader sweep to take the series as they fall to Arkansas 2-1. We'll digest some of that a little bit later in the program as Jim Toman joins us for just a bit outside with Jim Toman. Looking forward to chatting with Coach about the weekend. Johnny Roscoe joined us as well, longtime head coach of the high school ranks here in the state of South Carolina. He is a legend in our state in terms of high school football. He has teamed up with Founders Federal Credit Union, and they're going to be hosting a leadership conference at Newberry College tomorrow, which will feature not just Coach Roscoe, but also Todd Knight of Newberry, Boyd from York Comprehensive High School. Also, Ray Tanner will be speaking. So we will get some thoughts about what's going on at Newberry tomorrow with Coach Roscoe coming up just after 7 o'clock. We'll hear from Shane Beamer as well here this hour on the program as the Gamecocks wrapped up spring practice over the weekend with the annual Garnet and Black game, won by the Garnet team in what turned out to be a rather lopsided spring game, 17-0, though they dominated in terms of total offense, 186-61. But Shane Beamer likes what he has seen over the past 15 practices with the Gamecocks. Let you hear some of his thoughts and also maybe the real reason that Corn is not with us tonight. So we'll delve into all of that as the show unfolds. Again, 888-898-2525 as I welcome in my co-host here tonight over in Georgetown, just a stone's throw away from Sardis, as we say hello to Matt Smith here this evening. Smitty, how was your weekend?
Well, weekend was good. Enjoyed taking in, as you said, all the baseball, how great the action was and how good the teams are at the top of our state right now, including Coastal, as you know very well. And South Carolina really pushed back against Arkansas. Arkansas took 2 out of 3, but that is arguably the best team in the country that rolled into Founders Park. South Carolina gave them everything they wanted. Clemson, of course, won 2 out of 3, kind of back on the right track. They did lose 3 in a row last week, and now they've won 3 in a row. Well, I guess they took 2 out of 3. They lost 1, but they kind of got back rolling a little bit, feeling themselves as one of the top 10 teams in the country. And in that spring game, a lot of good things to take away for Gamecock fans, but still some question marks. And I know we'll get into that, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, where you think this will head, which is our Twitter question this week as well. How you feel about the team now exiting that spring game. And I think there's still a lot of questions out there. But the best part of it, I think, for South Carolina fans is I think Lenore Sellers' part and also some of the pieces that are some of the star attractions for this fall for South Carolina, like Nick Harbor and Rocket Sanders, weren't a part of that Garnet game. So there's still a lot that's yet to be uncovered about this South Carolina team, but there's also a lot we can talk about based on what turned out to be about 2.5 to 3 quarters of a football game.
Well, let's start right there with the Garnet and Black game. And, of course, afterwards, Shane Beamer, the ultimate question, though I was kind of surprised as he was in the post-game media session that it wasn't asked a little bit earlier. It took several questions to get to the only question I think asked of the football team. And maybe it's a situation, Smitty, that most people knew the answer. But the question was, are you ready to name a starter coming out of spring? And, of course, one thing that Shane Beamer has tried to instill into his program and will tell you anytime you ask him about this is we are a competitive bunch. We want to have competition at every position, and that includes backs. So if you named a starter coming out of spring, maybe that lessens the efforts that you're getting from some of the guys in the backup role, like, say, a Robbie Ashford, who transferred in from Auburn, and you would think he came in with the mindset, I'm going to take over that job and replace Spencer Rattler starting in the fall. He may still do so. But, Smitty, if you watched any, especially the opening piece, I mean, the Garnet team led by Lenore Sellers marched right down the field, went 70 yards. He caps it off with a 13-yard touchdown run. Of course, you can't tackle the quarterbacks. You can't touch the quarterbacks. You can run around them and hope that the coaches will blow a whistle and stop play. But I don't think anybody who watched the Garnet and Black game came away contest thinking that Lenore Sellers and Robbie Ashford in a real competition for the starting nod, because I thought Sellers looked considerably better than Robbie Ashford did.
Yeah, I think, I think part of the reason that Shane Beamer is not named a starter, and I don't know if he would have anyway, but I think that if you're going to name someone as young as Lenore Sellers, the first-time starter, usually that's the one that goes down to the line, right? He's not an incumbent starter.
Right.
And he's a young player. I just feel like this is the circumstance you're usually dealing with in college football, even if the coaches know, way, Lenore Sellers, on top of everything else, what you just said about him, what the eyeball test, and what we saw in limited action. And by the way, anybody that saw him at South Florence High School knows he was a juggernaut at the high school level. He was also the offensive player of the spring.
Right.
So that includes everybody that is returned, all the positions. He was the most outstanding player of the spring offensively. I think most of us see that as well. That's what we believe to be true. And what I like about him right now, from the very limited film we have on Lenore Sellers at the college level, just a little bit of action last, kind of mop up duty, a little bit against Kentucky, and then in the spring game is, to me anyway, and Chris, you can tell me agree or disagree here, he doesn't look like a normal young player. I know he's not a freshman anymore, really, but a player that comes in and has all of this talent. He's a ballyhooed recruit, but he just doesn't seem poised. He's just, it's a big play, a good play, then a poor play, and he hasn't grasped the playbook. He looks comfortable to me. He looks like he's sitting right in the catbird seat. He is the captain of this offense. So put aside the fact that he's got a live arm. Put aside the fact he's elite on his feet as an athlete. Put all that aside. He just looks like the starting quarterback right now. And again, that's nothing against Robbie Ashford or Davis Bevel or any of these players that are still competing. I just think that Lenore Sellers looks like, on top of everything else, he's got a great head shoulders. And was steering the team where he wanted it, which is why he was 9 of 11. He looked like he knew where everybody was going to be on the field, including the defenders, and knew where his checkdowns were. And to me, it looked like he made mostly the right decisions on when to sit in the pocket, when to step up into pressure, when to roll out and still look, keep his eyes downfield, and when to just tuck it and run and use his athleticism. So I know it's early. And who knows what this is going to look like, because going into the game, I thought maybe, as you pointed out with Robbie Ashford and his experience at Auburn, maybe he would end up getting the starting nod, and it would be one of the situations where he was a placeholder and you bring Sellers along more slowly. I don't think so. I think game one against Old Dominion, Lenore Sellers is your starter, and barring an earthquake in that game, I think he's going to be your starter heading to Kentucky for the first SEC game as well.
That's a really interesting point you bring up about Lenore Sellers and his demeanor and how the moment does not seem to be too big for him. And again, it was in front of estimated 30,000 fans, so stadium was less than half full, but approaching that. It will be considerably more when they play their opener against Old Dominion in late August. He's never struck me as a young man that was in awe of the moment. I mean, what he did here at South Florence, he just led the team through a really tremendous season, won a state championship, and it was like, okay, what's next? And you look at him, and please, I hope this comes across as the compliment I'm trying to hand him. You look at him, he reminds me of Clark Kent. If you remember Clark Kent from the old Superman comics or the Superman movies, the glasses, the unassuming guy that you would actually expect to sell insurance or be your banker. And then all of a sudden he puts the cape on and he turns into an outstanding athlete. That's exactly who Lenore Sellers is. Extremely smart, extremely intelligent, but he's a darn good quarterback. And I just can't see a way, unless Robbie Ashford just has a tremendous fall camp. Judging by what we've seen, and again, it's spring, and as Coach Beamer pointed out, the defensive players were upset at the fact they couldn't knock Lenore down and get credited with sacks and the like. But just based off, and your point is valid, I think, too, and Beamer even touched on this, the fact that he was named the offensive MVP. That tells you what the coaches saw for 14 practices leading up to what we all saw on Saturday when you watch the spring game. I just can't see a way that Lenore Sellers is not going to continue to improve and be their starter when they take it.
I agree with that. And quickly, and I want to make a point, I want to also say how good the defensive line to me looks. Just not based on what we saw in the spring, but the names out there, getting Gilbert Edmond back, Tonka Hemingway, we know can be a force. TJ Sanders, who sprained his ankle, didn't play, but and even Stewart, who is a highly thought of, highly recruited player coming in, which he can come in and kind of be a role player, an edge rusher. So I just think there's so many good things to say about South Carolina's defense, but they're veterans. We knew what they had on that side of the ball. To me, there are two major question marks. Offensive line and the wide receiver position. Because I think even out of all of the players, Rocket Sanders comes in, and even if he's not as successful immediately as he was at Arkansas, Juju McDowell will be back. I think you see enough out of players like Larry Scott and others. You're going to piece together a running back room. For me, the questions become that offensive line, can they give you a crack to do anything in this running game? And furthermore, are they going to be shuffling heading into the season? Because even Shane Beamer said, due to injuries, he said, there's not necessarily a lot of continuity on this team. Well, there's on that unit at the offensive line. There's not a lot of continuity at wide receiver either. We know Mazeo Bennett is supposed to be exciting. We know Nick Harbor has world-class speed, literally world-class speed. We know that Luke Doty is a heady player, and will probably make Lenore Sellers' life easier at the wide receiver position. But is there enough there? Because sometimes we look at this in the spring, and this is in a vacuum where they're practicing against each other. But remember, Georgia, Florida, Clemson, what do these guys look like against that defense? What does that offense look like? Not just full speed, but maybe you're down a guy. Maybe you're down a guy and you're on the road and it's the fourth quarter. Can you run the football and pick it up on 3rd and 2 against an SEC defensive line? Can you do it on the road at Kentucky? We don't know the answer to that yet. And part of the issue is they really couldn't last year, which is a big reason why they went 5-7 instead of 7-5. So I that's where I question all of this. I think Lenore Sellers is going to be. I think the running back position is going to be fine. I think the defense and the pass rush is going to be better than it was a season ago. Can the offensive line do anything? And they couldn't really in the run game a season ago. Those running backs were met almost immediately at the line of scrimmage or worse.
It's a great question. And Smitty, it's been a question that you've dealt with, if you're a South Carolina fan, for it's seemingly forever. When are they going to have an SEC caliber offensive line? And Shane Beamer addressed that, and you'll hear some of that about how young they are still, offensive line side of the coin, veteran defensive front, and maybe that's part of the reason the defensive line puts pressure even when they couldn't get to Lenore Sellers. They were able to put some pressure and stifle the run in some regards. And so you're right. They're going to have to be able to run the football. They couldn't last year. They couldn't protect the quarterback. That has got to change if they want to go anywhere past 5-7 like they did this past season. So, well, spring practice over for the Gamecocks, and it's mid out our poll question of the week up at Sports Talk SC. You've watched the spring game, listened to the coaches, the assistants, the players, and read various reports on practices and heard us chat about it ad nauseum during the spring. So how has that all affected your hopes for the 2024 season? Your options are raise them considerably, moderately increase, left them unchanged, or lowered them just a smidge. Right now, 52% of Gamecock fans, I'm assuming, Smitty, are unimpressed. They still are in the wait-and-see mode, and I guess coming off a losing campaign, that's where you probably should be. 30% saying they're moderately increased in terms of their expectations, 50% saying they were lowered a smidge, and just 3% saying they raised them considerably. I don't know that our listeners have that question wrong.
No, and I should point out, I said something a moment ago as I'm just glancing at the schedule. South Carolina doesn't play Georgia this year. So the world has changed,
Correct.
Which I need to wrap my head around sometimes. The SEC schedule is going to change, but the point holds. They'll be playing LSU and Alabama and some others, Texas A&M and Oklahoma. But, you just said it's been a question about South Carolina. Will they have an SEC caliber offensive line? And when they do, they're very good. And that's the big years that they've had, the winning seasons under Steve Spurrier and Will Muschamp and Shane Beamer. That's when they have been good, because remember, this is a 5-7 team from a year ago that had Spencer Rattler, and he could flat spin it. One of the best arm talents, perhaps the best, I'll say it, he's the best arm talent ever South Carolina. And so that shows you that you cannot just, kind of like you can't outwork a bad diet, right? You can't eat a whole pizza and then go out and jog it off very easily. You cannot overcome a poor offensive line because they couldn't protect Rattler last year. And what's a quarterback's best friend? The running game. Well, they couldn't generate a lot, just 2.8 yards per carry a season ago. So I think that's where they have to improve. And I don't think that's a controversial statement. I don't think anybody really would disagree with it, but we're going to watch it. That's something we have to watch. And I've talked to a lot of offensive linemen over the years, and we've interviewed them on this show. And one of the things we discuss, I ask this question almost every time I get the opportunity, and I've gotten the same answer almost every time, which is, would you rather have the 5 most talented linemen on the field or 5 guys that play together the best? And every time I hear 5 linemen that fit together like fingers in a glove. And that's what South Carolina will search for in fall camp. So, I think that's the reprieve for them, which is, okay, maybe this won't be a big time talented offensive line right away. Some of the young guys will have to continue to come up, but maybe 5 guys get in there, stay healthy, and can work together as a unit. And then they also, it's going to be unique blocking for Lenore Sellers, because Sellers is a young player and he's got that athleticism. So some of the time he's going to take off. Some of the time he's going to scramble and then decide to throw. So the linemen have to have a good feel about not getting downfield, when to release their pass block and get downfield so they can run block for their athletic quarterback. So the guys that fit together with both each other and Lenore Sellers' particular style of play, I think are going to be the ones that get the starting nod. And how big a deal is that for South Carolina? And can they keep those guys upright and healthy through 12 regular season games?
Shane Beamer's post-spring game comments coming up in just a little while. Johnny Roscoe set to join us after 7 o'clock. Plus, we'll talk some college baseball with Jim Toman here on this Monday. But let's head off to the phones. Check you at 888-898-2525. And my guess is this guy was clued in and glued in to the spring game on Saturday night as we welcome aboard to kick off a brand new week. Gamecock Larry on the phone lines here this evening. Gamecock Larry, good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. Bad week for Gamecock baseball. The number 3 team, I think, in Arkansas scored 14 runs, and 8 or 9 of those runs came from walks, errors, and wild pitches. And Coach Kingston said, we're that close. Yes, we're close. But Coach Kingston close on account in horseshoes. Now, let me say something else. I got something. My buddies want me to say this. It's a bag racer and motocross team owned and sponsored by Car Care. They want to give old Gamecock Larry an early birthday party. I'll be 90 years old on August the 1st.
Wow.
But since the weather is so hot in July and August, and they check their schedules for this guy racing and all that, and Uncle Jimmy's got barbecue. He's the best barbecuer. I baked barbecue for Four-Hole Swamp. Okinawa, Vietnam, Korea, Germany, and I eat barbecue and all that around Four-Hole Swamp and all around, and come back 35 miles from Four-Hole Swamp. And he is the best barbecuer. I don't know how to say that. I don't know the classify or whatever you want to call it.
I think you got it.
The fancy word for barbecue. He is the best barbecuer I had. And he got some macaroni and cheese, and I made macaroni and cheese every one of them places I've been. But I never did like macaroni and cheese. But old Uncle Jimmy makes some pretty good barbecue. I mean, pretty good. He makes good barbecue and great macaroni and cheese. I got it right. But anyway, I told him I would try to say this, but I appreciate it. He wanted me to let Phil, Smitty, Pat, and all, and I got Chris and all, Josh. He wanted me to let one 100.7 staff and all my friends and all of my, well, I know you don't hate old Gamecock, Larry, so I will say, and all Clemson fans, if you have nothing else to do and you ride around this way, but stop by and see old Gamecock, Larry. They gonna roll me out there in my wheelchair and set me in the sage tree, I hope. Hope we had pretty weather. But give it to me early, because, you know, when you get my age, you don't know. Well, nobody knows anyway. But anyway, I just want to put it all out. And, I mean, the only date they got is May the 11th. So,
May the 11th, okay.
May the 11th. That's fine. All my friends, all my people, all my loved ones, all of you Gamecocks, Tigers, Bulldogs, I would love to see all y'all if you could just drop by and holler if you're out there. But that's about all I got to say. Now, I ain't going to call in. Oh, yes, I got to call in tomorrow and talk to Mr. Field. I got something I want to ask him. I got something I want to ask him.
All right. Well, he'll be back here tomorrow.
But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I really appreciate everything you've done for the old Gamecock. That's about all I got to say. Go Gamecocks. Love y'all.
All right, buddy.
Talk to you later.
Gamecock Larry inviting us. I guess all now, Smitty, we can all go to his. Now, if I heard him correctly, he said his birthday is actually in August. And I understand the heat because my birthday is actually in August as well. But I think he said the party was May 11th. That's the same weekend as Darlington. We're going to really have to squeeze in a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. If we're going to go to both events. Absolutely. And, you know, Gamecock Larry, take heart. I don't think it's that bad a weekend for the Gamecocks, and they're still ranked in D1 baseball and the coaches poll as well.
All right, we'll slide out for you. Timeout. More of your phone calls to come. Comments from Shane Beamer off the spring game right around the corner. And your phone calls, as I mentioned, 888-898-2525. Back in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and chilly night with a low down to 42. Tomorrow is perfect. Bottle it up, enjoy it. All kinds of sunshine. 75 degrees as our high. We're 80 on Wednesday with mostly sunny skies and no rain in the forecast for the rest of the work week. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
At Palmetto State Armory, we offer the largest selection of guns and ammunition at unbeatable prices. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff are here to provide personalized assistance, ensuring you find exactly what you need. If you enjoy outdoor activities like hunting, camping, or hiking, our clothing and outdoor gear collection has got you covered. We also feature an exceptional indoor range facility where you can experience the thrill of shooting in a safe and controlled environment. Visit us today at PalmettoStateArmory.com or your local retail store. Armory, American made for life.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting a federal jury says BNSF Railway contributed to the deaths of two people who were exposed to asbestos decades ago when tainted mining material was shipped through a Montana town where thousands have been sick. The jury awarded $4 million each in compensatory damages to the estates of the two plaintiffs who died in 2020. The jury did not find that BNSF acted intentionally or with intent, so there will be no punitive damages awarded. The head of Israel's military intelligence directorate has resigned over Hamas's October 7th attack. Major General Aharon Haliva, the head of Israel's military intelligence, becomes the first senior Israeli figure to step down over the failures surrounding Hamas's attack. On Wall Street, the Dow by 253 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Families of all backgrounds want options when it comes to their children's education. Education scholarship accounts provide the flexibility and freedom necessary for parents to tailor their child's learning experience according to their unique needs. In fact, 75% of South Carolina voters believe education scholarship accounts should be made available to all families, regardless of income level. And there's a bill sitting before the South Carolina State Senate that would do just that. And you can make the difference. Call your state senator today and urge that senator to put students first in South Carolina by expanding access to educational scholarship accounts. The time is now to support South Carolina students. For more information, visit southcarolinaschoolchoice.com. Again, that's southcarolinaschoolchoice.com. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity, South Carolina.
As we celebrate 10 fantastic years at Sweet Comfort Services, we're cooling you off with unbeatable deals on all SEER 2 and high-efficiency AC equipment. Hey Point family, mention this ad and get a thorough spring maintenance check from our expert non-commissioned techs for just $95 for your first system and a $35 each additional system. Look us up at HVAC.com or call us at 331-8143. Celebrating a decade of keeping you cool and comfy. That's the Sweet Comfort promise.
Great things don't happen all at once. Big dreams take time. And when it comes to saving for college, it's those small steps that make a difference. I'm State Treasurer Curtis Lofton. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan, is designed to be taken step by step. You can start with any amount, contributions are tax deductible, and earnings grow tax-free. So why wait? Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumocines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Track too tough to take. The lady in black. She's got a thing for tradition, a hankering for history, and she sure likes a good challenge. Well, when Throwback Weekend comes to town, she'll get exactly what she wants and play extra hard to get. Guys are gonna have their hands full. Shall we dance? The official Throwback Weekend of NASCAR, May 10th through the 12th. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
Hard to believe, just 2 weeks out from the track too tough to tame, dropping back on the NASCAR circuit. Terrific race yesterday, especially a tremendous finish at Talladega, Alabama. We will chat with Josh Harris, president of Darlington Raceway, coming up on the show tomorrow. Talk a little NASCAR racing here on the program. 888-898-2525. Comments from South Carolina head football coach Shane Beamer off the spring game coming up in mere moments. But first, let's head back to the phones and visit with you on this Monday as we say hello to Gamecock Tony, following Gamecock Larry. Gamecock Tony in Lancaster. How are you, sir? Welcome into the program.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing good. I hear you're going to have Coach Roscoe on right after 7 o'clock.
That is correct.
I just want to let you know. Yeah, I just want to let you know that I played for him when he come to Lancaster. I was a sophomore, and I played for him until I graduated. And I keep up with the assistant coaches to this day. And when he gets on, just tell him one of his old players called and asked about him, and he's the greatest. And I appreciate y'all taking my call. Tony Lambert. That's all you got to say. He'll let you know. But,
okay, sounds good.
Go Gamecocks, and Gamecock Larry, we're okay in baseball. Don't worry about that. We're going to peak at the right time. Appreciate y'all taking my phone call, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Tony. We appreciate the phone call. 888-898-2525. My guess is, Smitty, just knowing what kind of legendary coach Johnny Roscoe is and was when he was here in South Carolina, Tony's probably not the only player that's got that feeling for him after playing for him in high school.
No, and there's a reason why he's still active in the community and as a community leader, because that's what high school coaches often leave behind, that type of legacy where they're talked about for years and years, even after their coaching career is over. I played under some, and I know a lot of my friends and a lot of the people that you and I have come across in this business. There are just names that resonate, and as you said, Johnny Roscoe is certainly one of those.
So he will join us right after 7 o'clock, going to chat about a leadership conference taking place courtesy of Federal Credit Union, easy for me to say, at the Newberry College Fieldhouse tomorrow. So we'll get some details on that here just after 7 o'clock. But of course, over the weekend, South Carolina wrapped up spring football practice, the Garnet and Black game. Garnet shutting out the Black team 17-0. And afterwards, head coach Shane Beamer fielded questions from the media about his thoughts coming out of spring and starting to get ready for the upcoming season.
It's been a great spring for us. Feel like we've certainly gotten better, and that's what I just told the team in there. We've gotten better as a team since the beginning of, or since January, and then since practice 1 of the spring. There's no question we've made a lot of improvements, got a lot of work to do, but we've gotten better. Exams start next week here at Carolina. Last day of class is Monday, so we've got to finish strong in the classroom, which confident our guys will do. Got a lot of work to do, but love this group. Love the way they work, love the way they compete. You saw that out there tonight. Nicky Manwari, for example, he really hadn't a whole lot the last week or so. He's just been banged up, and I wasn't sure if he was going to play, and I called him Thursday night before the radio show to make sure he would see if he was playing and what his mindset was, like health-wise, and we weren't going to put him out there before he was ready. And he was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm playing." And we were hoping with a lot of our older guys just to maybe get a quarter out of some young guys in there, and he's in there the whole first half competing and trying to go back in the game in the second half as well. So a lot of guys like that love to compete, love to work, and are what we want this place to be about without a doubt. Injury-wise, luckily, feel like we got out of it, fairly in pretty good shape. Sanders rolled his ankle a little bit on the very first play of the game. Marquis Anderson's back locked up, something he'd been struggling with. He's been beat up, whether it be knee or thigh or here in the last week or so, his back's been bothering him. And literally the first rep of warm-ups, and his back locked up and wasn't able to go tonight. Get that checked out next week, but don't think either one of those are anything long-term or significant. All of our other injured guys that have been out this spring or did not play tonight will be fine and good to go once we come back. Like I said, we got to finish up exams. Month of May is critical for our guys. We've got a lot of work to do. They're off, but a lot of them will stay around here on their own, and then they're back in June for summer school and full speed ahead. So again, a lot of work to do, but love the progress that we've made. And certainly another plug, I said it the other day in the press conference, but if you enjoyed the fireworks show out there just now, highly encourage you to come to the Beamer Ball next Saturday night, right back here in Williams-Bright. And if you think that fireworks show was awesome, you ought to see the one at the conclusion of the Beamer Ball. So open to everyone and great fundraiser for our program and athletic department, and looking forward to being here next Saturday night for that awesome event as well. Questions?
Well, Shane, a couple for you. One, what did you think of Lenoris?
I thought Lenoris was good. He has been good all spring. He won an award that we decided on as coaches at halftime, and thought he just looked very, very poised out there, very efficient. Obviously, looked good running the ball. Those defensive guys were yelling at me the entire first half that they thought those runs would have been sacks, and they were mad that I didn't blow the whistle. But, I thought he did a really good job of just operating the offense, running when it presented itself, but then being able to make throws also, and did a good 9 of 11 and ran for 40 yards on 5 carries. So good night.
And I believe you guys are using the tablets and the headset now that that's been approved. How did the trial run go?
I think good. We've done the headset in some of the practices just to get used to hearing it. We've been doing that a little kind of off and on all spring. We didn't do it every practice, David, but we did it some of the practices. But I definitely wanted to do it tonight just because the next time we're in that big a crowd, we'll be doing it for real in August. And just being able to get used to the noise in the background, the band, the fans, all that. Thought we needed to do it tonight. I think it went well, best I can tell. And then the tablets, I don't know. We had of them down there, and same thing. I told the coaches, just get used to, even if it's nothing to really look at, but just get your guys on the sideline after each series and just kind of go through something so they're used to seeing that also. So that'll be new, obviously, in college football for us, but we want to be able to take advantage of it and not have the first game against Old Dominion be the first time we try all that.
Shane, throughout the spring, and I know from a fan base standpoint, very excited for the trio of running backs you brought in during the transfer portal, but it felt like DJ Braswell certainly gets lost in the mix sometimes. Thought he did some good things. What was your just overall assessment of what he was able to do on his, 5 carries?
Yeah, I thought all those guys did well, Mike. Oscar, I just told him, good runs, some runs early and did some good things, and saw him getting north-south, and really all those guys, Nathan Harris-Wainick and Larry Scott, both guys that are walk-ons, and Chase McCracken and Jawarn Howell. All those guys got in there and got carries. DJ's a guy that can run. He's got home run ability because of his speed, and showed some ability tonight. He obviously got in there and played some last year as a true freshman, and certainly with his speed, he brings an element to that running back room without a doubt. But again, with all those guys, DJ's included, it's about so much more than just the ball in your hand. It's the pass protection part of it, and it's the catching the ball aspect of it. He had a good night tonight and has to continue to commit to what we want out of that running back position and continue to develop as a player.
You kind of moving between the 4-2-5 and the 3-3-5 as you said you would. Do you have any kind of overall thoughts on either of those two looks, and I guess on the defense in general tonight?
Not really. I thought the defense kind of like they have been all spring, deep and athletic, and were flexible and multiple and able to do different things. A lot of maybe what you saw tonight front-wise was really just from a personnel standpoint with the draft. It ended up that some positions were very, 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 very thin, and I didn't want to keep. If you only have 2 defensive tackles on a team, and I think one team had three defensive tackles, and one of those was Tonka. We don't want those guys being out there the entire night. So a lot of that was just from a flexibility standpoint. Let's just try and get 11 guys out there, but make sure we're able to get some rest. So you may have seen some personnel groupings on defense to not even have, just because we maybe had a linebacker lining up as a defensive end just to get a body out there to give another guy a rest. So that'll be good for the teams that watch us, that they're preparing for that. But I thought overall the defense has been good, have gotten better. And as I told you guys, just our depth and our athleticism and size is noticeably different. Monkel Goodwine run around at D-tackle. You watch DeAndre Jules run around at D-tackle to go along with the guys that we were bringing back. And then you add Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart to the defensive end group, and all those guys we're bringing back. And then you got Debo and Bam coming back at linebacker, but then you add Bengali Kamara, and you add Demetrius, you add Wendell Gregory, and you add Fred Johnson. It's just up front, that front 7 I'm really excited about, just their ability and athleticism.
Will you come to my next wedding?
Your next wedding? How many are you planning on? How many have you had, and how many are you planning on having?
Only one so far.
All right. Isn't that so cool? Hopefully there's another one then. If you renew your vows, and I'd be glad to, Phil. That would be great.
You could be Elvis. Throughout spring, what did you take away from your offensive line and their ability to create separation and create a running game for you looking ahead?
Yeah, I think they've made progress. We've been banged up front, Phil, just on the offensive line with some injuries. Josiah, he was out for a couple weeks, and it was hard to obviously get him work because he was out. Marquis was banged up. He got hurt in a couple scrimmages ago and missed some practices. So we just haven't had that continuity like we want to have throughout the spring, all 15 practices. But this past week, we've been able to get kind of a core group of guys in there. And I feel like since last Saturday, we really committed to running the football last Saturday in the scrimmage, did a good job of it. And then we've continued to develop that run game, pass protection, all that this week as well. So it would have been better, I'll be honest, if we had been able to just completely stay healthy. But we've done a good enough job and thought they did some good things tonight, particularly that Garnet, group on the offensive line. And when we did the draft, we broke up the offensive lines into 2 9-man teams. So the Garnet team had one offensive line of 9 guys, and then the other one had the black team had another team, and then one of those teams, I guess Marquis was on the black team. I think you lose your guy that was going to be your starting guard. You lose him in pregame warmup, so that didn't help the black team offensive line tonight. But overall, like that group. And then one of the best things that'll help us is, I think I said it the other day to you guys, but last year we started 2 treatment on the offensive line, Tree and Tro, and they didn't even get here until June. And then they're starting SEC games 2 months later. You got Blake Franks, you got Cam Pringle, and you got Josiah Thompson. I just told Cam in the locker room, it'll be so much easier for him when he gets to August. One, he's blocking a pretty good defensive group. And I was at dinner with Cam because we have a elite offensive lineman here on campus for an official visit. And Cam was at dinner with us last night. And that's what I was telling Cam, like, we're young on the offensive line. We're old on the defensive line. I mean, you talk about Jules and Kel and Tonka and Boogie and TJ. Those guys have been in college for some of those guys 5 years now. And then you got freshmen that should still be in high school today, and they're trying to block those guys. And they've done a good job. They've had their moments, and they'll be so much better for it. And our offensive line will be so much better for it that they've gone through spring practice and faced a defense like that each and every day.
USC head football Dane Beamer, fresh off the spring game on Saturday night, Garnet defeating the Blacks 17-0. Smitty, you and I are married guys. Comments like Phil made are the reason you end up sleeping on your neighbor's couch.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you don't. You don't talk about marriage number 2 in the middle of marriage number 1. It's like a coach, right? Hey, we're not going to talk about that one. We're not going to talk about the next marriage. We want this marriage right now. That's our focus this week.
That may be where Phil is tonight instead of the holiday.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hosteller Brown. Did you know it's possible to avoid probate before you die, regardless of what you own? Why put your loved ones through a long, stressful public process when there are better options for your family? Visit lawyerlisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has introduced a new rolling jackpot, and it's big.
How big? Bigger than a striped bass? Reel 'em in.
Way bigger.
Bigger than this world-class golf course? Or
bigger than that.
Even bigger than the Gaffney Peach?
Let's just say new rolling jackpot. Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today and check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at seeducationlottery.com.
Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
Stay tuned. More Sports Talk is coming up on the Sports Talk Media Network.
She is the track too tough to take. The lady in black. She's got a thing for tradition, a hankering for history, and she sure likes a good challenge. Well, when Throwback Weekend comes to, she'll get exactly what she wants and play extra. These guys are going to have their hands full. Shall we dance? The official Throwback Weekend of NASCAR, May 10th through the 12th. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
George Bryant for Tsunami Bar Sports, our inventor, David Abernathy, has always said Tsunami Bar technology allows us to take the training to the grass. Now I know through my sport of golf that natural agility can be converted to athletic ability. And why is this, Tsunami Robbie?
Transferring the training to the grass. This may be the most undervalued characteristic of the Tsunami flexible bar technology. The Tsunami bar action loads and unloads at the concentric and transition points. This is what we call reversal forces, and the Tsunami bar is the only bar and training device that I know of that can train these reversal forces adequately at speed.
Hey, this is Phil Kornblut. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order. Promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
Yeah, Phil may be using the holiday as his reason, but I think some of it is to make up for that offhanded comment. You can't, as Smitty pointed out, you can't talk about your second wedding until your first one is, the tubes and in that boat. Phil's not in that boat at all. I mean, there's sainthood for Mrs. Corn having put up with him this long. Now, what he should have said is, And Coach Beamer tried to throw him a lifeline. Hey, I'll be more than happy to come out and when you want to renew your vows, I'll officiate that. That's where he should have gone, not a second wedding.
Yes. And by the way, this was in response to the proposal that happened at the spring game. In case anyone missed that along the way, that's what Korn was referencing. You know, an interesting place. I don't know a lot of, I mean, maybe I travel in different circles. I don't know a lot of women that want to tell that story, but maybe some do. Maybe some do. I mean, not that they're on, it's not that you're not a football fan. It's just the most romantic venue. When was it? Picture it, 2024, spring, Garnet v. Black. Okay, Dante Reno's about to take a snap. The sun is setting. I don't know if this is everybody's ideal, but whatever. You do you.
I will say, though, he is, whomever the young man was that proposed and his now fiance did say yes, he's got a keeper. If you can pull that off and you can propose at a spring, not a game. And think of that, Smitty. It wasn't, South Carolina, Clemson with, who knows, the college football playoff on the line. Huge game, big crowd, the whole 9 yards. This was at a spring game, and he was able to pull it off. So she is a definite keeper, without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree. That's right. This is you see, maybe he's thinking ahead. You propose at the spring game because, all right, 2 reasons now. Your team can't lose, okay? True. You don't want to do that. You do this on the road at Oklahoma, it's tougher. It's more difficult to have a happy ending there. And 2, now you can still squeeze in the late summer wedding with some quick planning. So maybe that's what was on his mind. Oh, and you do the engagement here, and then if you work it fast enough, you don't have any of football season. You see, you don't have. I love it. Some of those fall Saturday weddings fall when, Clemson plays Florida State or South Carolina plays Florida. This way, you get the engagement out of the way, and then in summer workouts, that's when you plan your wedding. Plan the wedding yourself.
I love it. I have the perfect opportunity and the avenue for a caterer. They're just down the road from Seawells. They could call up Seawells, and I guarantee you Seawells would take care of somebody who had a proposal at Williams-Brice Stadium. I mean, you're talking, 1,000 yards, 2,000 yards, maybe a little bit further from Williams-Brice Stadium at midfield to the middle section of Seawells. It's not that far. I mean, it's just on the other side of the Fairgrounds parking lot. I mean, it's a great setup for them. But anyway, we'll move on and wish Phil well. Hope he doesn't get hit in the head with a frying pan tonight. As we bring you the latest in recruiting, as always, brought to you by our good friends at Seawells. Perfect place to go for any catering, whether it be a wedding, a reception, or, just a regular party. Maybe Gamecock Larry's party. Anything can be handled by the folks at Seawells. And, of course, don't forget about their daily luncheon buffet. You can call them for catering info at 3-771-7385 or SeawellsCateringSC.com. Tomorrow on the daily luncheon buffet, it'll be Southern fried chicken, hamburger, steak, and onions, and also pulled pork. So there you go, Gamecock Larry. A little barbecue for you. Big recruiting weekend, so we'll get through as much of it as we can here the next few minutes. South Carolina Beamer said last week he expected some commitments to fall from this weekend's visits for the spring game. First one coming out Saturday afternoon from cornerback Shamari Earls of Chester, Virginia. Earls had an impressive offer list, which he narrowed to a top 9 of South Carolina, Duke, Georgia, Virginia, Texas A&M, Alabama, Tennessee, Maryland, and also Penn State. Gamecocks added another highly recruited prospect Sunday afternoon in defensive tackle Caleb Williams of Chesterfield, Virginia. Williams was in for the spring game on Saturday. Williams also visited USC to watch a spring practice earlier in April. It was offered by Gamecocks defensive tackles coach Travion Robertson last April, and they made him a top target. From there, he had offers from a bunch of schools, including Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Texas A&M, Wisconsin, LSU, and Penn State. Late last week, linebacker Justin Rowe of Asheville and his parents had a phone conversation with South Carolina linebackers coach and defensive coordinator Clayton White. Shortly after that conversation, Rowe said he was ready to make his commitment to a school with the Gamecocks, Virginia, and Wake Forest as his top 3. Rowe did not make that call through the weekend, but he said Sunday night he planned to do so this week, saying unquote. South Carolina seems very well, so I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being my final decision. I'd say my relationship with the staff of football that they bring and the trajectory of the program moving in the right direction. I can progress very well with the coaching staff. He did not make it to Columbia, though, for the spring game. He was in to watch a spring practice back in March, and he's got an official with USC set for June 21st. Tight end Hayden Bradley of Georgia visited USC Saturday, the first time he had seen the Gamecocks in person. He has this coming Saturday afternoon for a commitment announcement, and he will release a short list this week. Some of his other offers include North Carolina, Miami, Minnesota, Missouri, Penn State, Michigan, Ole Miss, Duke, and UCLA. U.S. Target linebacker A.J. Holloway of Beaufort, Georgia, plans to make his commitment announcement in May. He visited USC in March. He was at Louisville over the weekend. He has a short list of USC, Louisville, Auburn, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Texas A&M, Tennessee, among others. Irmo quarterback athlete A.J. Brand set an official visit with USC for May 31st. He also plans to set officials with Virginia Tech and Oregon State. Let's see. Gaffney offensive tackle Shad Surratt was offered by Ole Miss. Clemson offensive tackle Zach Owens has put his name in the transfer portal. John, meantime, Coastal Carolina wide receiver Jensen Hooper-Price has done the same. 2028 running back Michael Martin of Christ Church was offered by Texas A&M. He recently visited Georgia Tech and Oklahoma. Basketball for the second straight transfer portal season. Clemson and one of its ACC rivals are trading players. Last year it was Ben Middlebrooks to NC State. Jack Clark coming back to Clemson. Then Clemson guard Josh Beadle announced a transfer to Boston College. Sunday, the news breaking that Eagles guard Jaden Zachary was headed to the Tigers after making an official visit over the weekend. The news first reported by Clemson 247. USC target Mount St. Mary's transfer 6'5" guard Dakota Lefew will take final official visit to Georgia today, according to Jamie Shaw of Hall 3. Coming off a visit to USC and also has a visited to Syracuse and Villanova as well. And Wisconsin transfer guard Connor Esigian, who made an official visit to USC, has committed to Nebraska. That is recruiting. You can get it all on our website at SportsTalkSC.com, and on X, use the hashtag STRecruiting, presented by Seawells.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Lawyers presented dueling narratives in former President Trump's criminal trial Monday in New York City as jurors got their first glimpse into the prosecution, accusing Trump of falsifying business records as part of a scheme to squelch negative stories about him during his 2016 presidential campaign. Trump told reporters as he left court, "It's a case as to bookkeeping, which is a very minor thing."
I get indicted. I'm the leading candidate. I'm beating Biden. I'm beating the Republicans now. I have the nomination. And this is what they try and take me off the trail for. That checks paid to a lawyer. He is a lawyer, or was a lawyer.
The opening statements offered the 12-person jury in the voting a roadmap for viewing the allegations at the heart of the case and Trump's expected defenses. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports on the growing protests against Israel at U.S. colleges and universities. The Jewish Passover holiday begins.
Outside Columbia University in Manhattan, officials in New York City and across the country are urging calm.
Talk to each other, understand different points of view.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul outside Columbia University, where in-person learning was canceled for the day. An NYPD legal official, Michael Gerber, they've been asked to generally stay off the campus except for last week.
They had students who were trespassing. They asked us to come onto campus to take action.
The arrests of demonstrators sparked new pro-Palestinian encampments at schools like MIT and the University of Carolina. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Good day on Wall Street as the Dow was up by 253 points. The Nasdaq rose 169 with the S&P 500 advancing 43. More at townhall.com.
Relief Factor pain relief that's natural, pain relief works, and pain relief that attacks source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. You weren't there? Who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
One of China's top military leaders has taken a harsh line on territorial disputes. He told an international naval gathering that China would strike back with force if its interests came under threat. We hear more on this story from correspondent Charles de Ledesma reporting from London.
Jan Yuja, the vice chairman of the ruling Communist Party's Central Military Commission, says the nation's territorial sovereignty broke no infringement and its core interests cannot be challenged, and that the Chinese military will resolutely defend the reunification and interest of the motherland. The 4-day meeting comes amid heightened tensions over China's assertive actions in the Taiwan Strait and the East and South China Seas, and as China's navy burned into the world's largest by number of hulls. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 100 Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 42. Tomorrow is perfect. Bottle it up, enjoy it. All kinds of sunshine. 75 degrees as our high. We're back to 80 on Wednesday with mostly sunny skies and no rain in the forecast for the work week. I'm Cal. Your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Back we are. It is hour number 2 on a Monday night edition of Sports Talk Media Network all across the state of South Carolina. Chris Bergen here in Florence, Smith down in Georgetown, Joshua Cohen back at our Columbia studios, ready to line up your phone calls at 888-898-2525. Again, 888-898-2525. Phil has the night off celebrating Passover. He'll be back in here tomorrow, but in the interim, you're welcome to fill his stead again at 888-898-2525. Missed the opening hour of the program. Talked a good bit of spring football as the Gamecocks wrapped it up over the weekend. Heard from Shane Beamer. Also dove into a rather meaty recruiting report presented by our good friends at Seawells. Up at the bottom of the hour, we will have a chance to talk some college baseball as Jim Toman joins us for his weekly visit just a bit outside, coming off a weekend in which Clemson and Coastal Carolina each got big conference wins, and the Gamecocks took 1 out of 3 from Arkansas. But joining us now, a good friend of the program, Derry high school football coach here in the state of South Carolina, and that's not the only place he has made a name for himself. He is in charge of what is going to be a leadership conference taking place at Newberry College, and presented by Founders Federal Credit Union, as we say hello to Johnny Roscoe, joining us once again on the phone lines. Coach Roscoe, great on the show. How are you this evening?
We're doing fine. Really out here on the Newberry football field, and we got a clinic going on, and
we have the Newberry College coaches and also North Carolina State graduate assistants. And we open it up to any high school football coach. And right now we got, looks like 200 coaches out here. Bruce Rumfield with Founders had a shrimp boil, and it's really looking good. Right now the instruction's going on, and I mean, it's football time.
It is indeed football time. Of course, it never goes away in South Carolina, does it? But give us ideas to how this all came about and sort of the origins of this, first the clinic and then also the leadership conference that'll be taking place tomorrow, how you got involved.
Well, really about 2013, I'd been the head coach at Northern Guilford in Greensboro, and I retired, came down, and the coach said, we'd like to see what we've been doing. I mean, wanted to see what was going on. So I had the coaches who replaced me, and then some other South Carolina coaches came. We had about 25, and they say, this is really going good. And it was leadership. It's what was successful for us. And that's when it started. It built and built. Bruce Rumfield with Founders has helped a great deal. And it's on Tuesday is nothing but leadership. And this year we're going to have Coach Tanner, Milt Louder, also from the Clemson sports psychologist, and also just different speakers. And Sheriff Lott is speaking. It's really something for high school coaches, and really it's administrators, and we have graduate assistants from a lot of colleges in it. So it's something that's grown, and we're at Newberry because it's ideal. And also 2 years ago, we started X's and O's on Monday night, which is open to any coaches. And that's why we have so many here, and they're from all parts of the state. So this is a special event. Here, if you're looking at it, there's coaches right next to the coaches who are showing drills. So ask them right then, hey, why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And so it's really special.
And Coach Johnny Roscoe with us, a 5-time state champion. And Coach, that's what I want to ask you about. All anybody is going to talk about once you retire is those state championships, the big victories, and want to relive those. So I ask you from a perspective of leadership, did you learn more in those 5 years or all the years that you fell short? What lessons did you learn that you're going to share tomorrow from all those years you didn't win a state title?
Well, when you fall short, you have to go and look at yourself and what you need to do differently. And when I went to Northern Guilford and started the program there, and take my word, there was a lot of good players. Keenan Allen was one of mine that just went to the Bears. P.J. Logan played at North Carolina. Maurice Harris played in the pros. But at the same time, it was things I have. It made me change. It made me look at myself and change. And I was probably more of a run coach, and then all of a sudden I go up there and become more of a 50-50 pass run, so it made a little difference. And that's why people couldn't recognize what I've been doing offensively and defensively. The whole thing is on the leadership, you want to get the best possible people who are successful. When I was coaching high school, I wanted to hear what Coach McKissick, Coach Varner, any of those coaches, because they were successful. So that's what you learn from successful. And it's what everybody in any business is doing, because if you're a football coach, you had better be able to deal with all the different problems that's going to pop up. And, I think the biggest thing is I had so many good parents. And, no matter what, that's what you got to have. And people say, well, football's changed. You can't do what you did. No, you may not can do some of the things, but you still do the same process of making them better players and, come back and just seeing them, 40, 50. I got some, I told them they're old as I am. And it's been 45, 50 years since they played for me. So those are the things that I look forward to. And leadership is that's a big part of it.
Well, Coach, we had someone call us earlier that wanted us to mention him to you. And he just paid you the greatest compliment talking about how everything about him in high school has stuck with him. His name was Tony Lambert. Said he still reaches out to you from time to time. And I think that's that's the legacy of a coach, right? Is what the players, the people they become years later. And I have no idea if Tony won a state championship with you or not, but he said your lessons still resonate with him.
Nothing but, he was a big part of when we started at Lancaster building the program. And listen, we were pretty tough on that group. And all of a sudden, the next year, everything, the light came on and we got successful. So, and you just said it. That's the big thing is the players coming back and talking to you. On our way from coming here to Newberry today, one of our players, he's in the military. He's a captain in Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty or whatever it's called. And just the things that he says he uses every day with his men is the same thing as we did at ball when he was at Northern Guilford. So that's the praise. That's all you do. Really make it successful.
The legendary Johnny Roscoe with us here this evening at Newberry College. He'll be back there tomorrow for a leadership conference. It's going to include such names as Todd Knight, the head football coach at Newberry, Boyd, high school legend in our state at York Comprehensive, and also Mark Hodge from Spartanburg High School to go along with Ray Tanner. And Coach Roscoe, when you got these guys together, what was the message that you want them to say? For instance, when Dean Boyd talks about leaders are readers, what will coaches that come to the event tomorrow learn from him that may already know?
I tell you what, Dean does such a good job. He has actually a retreat, and they talk about certain books they have to read. Everything's on leadership, and it can be by anyone. And so my wife kind of started them on that and said, you got to read certain books. And I've got a coach from Reagan High School who coached with me at Northern Guilford, and he and Dean do an outstanding job. And it's just, he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and reads. He's got 2 children, and for a whole hour, all he thinks about is leadership and books and whatever he can do. So those are the things that, that we try to stress. And I know in the questions for, Coach Tanner, a national championship coach, how's things changing? Now as an AD, what do you go about, having to deal with a NIL transfer portal, all kind of little things that, I didn't have to deal with, or probably college coaches in the past haven't. So really the structure of all football is happening. And as you know, it goes from the NFL to college and it comes down to high school. So, a lot of states are saying high schools. I know North Carolina did that. You can actually be an NIL in high school. So it's coming, and how you deal with it, I think, is the question about it. But you still got to be a leader in your program. If the coach is not, or their coaches, I better say it that way, is really have to be the leaders in the school. My philosophy is football, since it's the first sport that starts, kind of dictates how the school system for the whole year works. If you have not doing too well, you're going to probably have a little more problems in school versus if you do real well.
Coach, if there is a high school coach out there listening tonight and has found this fascinating, is it too late for them to register, show up tomorrow? How can other high school coaches get involved just to come hear what all these great speakers you've got lined up have to say?
Well, no, they can come. What we do is to make it affordable for everybody is $50 for the first coach. Every coach who comes after that is $25, and get meals, and you get so many things that will help you. And you can go on our website, our webpage, and it's called foundingleadership.org. That's one word, foundingleadership.org. And you'll see the stuff we did last year on videos. In fact, one coach from Newberry here has already had over 10,000 hits on his drills. Wow. So, things like that is what we're trying to give back to the coaches and the communities. Yeah, come. Johnny, it's wide open. Come tomorrow.
And it will start up early, too. It starts at 7:45. Again, it is at the Founders FCU Fieldhouse at Newberry College. Johnny Roscoe, who is putting this event on the clinic tonight, and then the leadership conference all day tomorrow. Actually, we'll wrap up with lunch around 1 o'clock is our special guest. And again, more details at foundingleadership.org. Again, that's foundingleader.org. Coach Roscoe, as always, we appreciate you jumping on Sports Talk with us tonight. We wish you all the best here the next 24 hours or so, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Hey, thank you a lot.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As Johnny Roscoe joining us here tonight. And Smitty, I thought you brought up a fascinating point about what's the whole purpose. And it's what Lambert talked to us about, former player. It's a guy who recognizes exactly what a coach was teaching him and is still able to apply it all these many years later after learning all this stuff in high school.
Yeah, you can hear your coaches that made the biggest difference in your life. You can hear their voices echo in your head. You put them whether you like it or not. And you share it with everybody around you in everything, every step you take in life.
Major Billy Downer here from the Department of Natural Resources. And DNR is excited to announce the implementation of Go Outdoors, a new online licensing and boat titling system that you can access right from your phone. Through this new system, customers can purchase their hunting and fishing licenses, renew their boats, apply for lottery hunt opportunities, and complete electronic harvest reporting requirements. For more information, go out SC at your local app store.
Relax, winter is finally over. It's time to get ready for a season of adventure. Escape the ordinary and get out on the road with an auto loan from Founders Federal Credit Union. From city streets to off-road trails, your journey begins here. Our low fixed rate you on the road and a ride that fits your lifestyle and budget, featuring no payments for up to 90 days. You can apply early for a pre-approved spending limit before you even start shopping. Let a Founders representative be your trusted advisor to make sure your purchase makes sense for you and your finances. Ask for a free auto insurance quote for a personalized plan to protect your purchase. Founders also offers mechanical breakdown protection that is competitive with most warranty plans available at dealerships. Head over to one of our 40 convenient office locations or visit foundersfcu.com to apply for an auto loan today or to see if you qualify for membership with Founders. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. We're back in a moment.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for 40 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's Corbett. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-665-2868, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
All right, thanks to Johnny Roscoe for dropping by for a visit here tonight on Sports Talk. Another guest right around the corner. We will talk some baseball, go just a bit outside. It's Jim Tillman. 888-898-2525. If you'd like to join us, more of your phone calls to come. Did want to hit on a couple of news notes of the day. We'll save probably the more interesting story of the day for a moment. But Chapel Fowler of the State reporting today, Smitty, that Clemson has made a shakeup to its spring-summer tours with the coaches. Of course, Dabo Swinney and Brad Brownell going around the state of South Carolina to chat with Tiger fans. They have discontinued the Prowl and Growl Tour and now replaced it, according to Chappell, with a similarly structured Clemson Roadshow, which is now affiliated with the athletic department. The University Athletics made the call on media access changes, which are, this I find fascinating, Smitty, and I don't know if this is good, bad, or it's to avoid having to answer a question that we're going to get into in just a couple of moments. But no more media access to Dabo Swinney and Brad Brownell and other Tiger coaches during their school's summer speaking. Coaches have been available for interviews pre-event since at least the early 2000s. And now no one will get a chance to chat with Dabo or Brad Brownell and the like. And you wonder if some of the stories that are hovering around Clemson right now, let's say for Brad Brownell, if he goes out on tour, first question to be asked is, hey, Coach, what's up with your contract? Because there's still been no word about a contract extension for a guy who guided them to the Elite Eight. I'm just stunned it has taken them this long to do anything on his deal.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the back half of that you're about to bring up is, and we'll get to more of that in a moment, obviously college football realignment is on the fore of everyone's mind because Florida State is currently in court with the ACC, so against its own conference, and Clemson is a part of this debate. And so Dabo Swinney, if you're absolutely right, all things would center on, hey, Coach, hey, if you guys get out of the ACC, would you go to the SEC or would you go to the Big Ten, or how quickly do you think this would happen? And as you said, Brad Brownell would be pestered with questions about his contract. So these are questions that neither one of these coaches either wants to discuss or can discuss. Frankly, Dabo Swinney would probably either have a gag order or would say, well, look, guys, I don't even know. You know, that's above me. It's attorneys are dealing with that. I can't say anything about that. I'm just – what would he say? We can already give the answer. I'm worried about Clemson football right now. I'm worried about this game one. And, of course, Brad Brownell would say the same thing. He said, look, guys, my contract situation, that's between me and Graham Neff and our representatives, and that has nothing to do with our basketball team. I can't wait to get back out there and see these transfers go play.
It's a great answer and a great response on both. As a matter of fact, Dabo's been asked this question already, and he came up with a fabricated email, said, well, you get in touch with graham.neff@aol.com. and ask him that question. And he's right. I mean, there's really nothing he can say, but it's a massive, massive deal right now, what's going on behind the scenes. And again, I'm just stunned that Clemson has drug its feet. Maybe everything is copacetic behind the scenes, but it just from an public optics standpoint, you got to be wondering, Brad Brownell's thinking, look, I got it, our program to just the second Elite Eight. We've had 3 or 4 really, really good seasons here in a row. What else can I do? And
I wonder, Chris, if I was just going to say, I wonder if this isn't a situation that just looking for the money. In other words, now the power dynamic shifted where Brad Brownell he says, you know what? I am going to hold out for this amount of money. And now now the ball's in Clemson's court, and they're looking at how much they could potentially afford to pay Brad Brownell or losing him, and they're probably weighing all of that. In other words, what I'm saying is instead of it being something that Clemson is – because they're not firing him, right? He's not going anywhere. That can't happen. That cannot happen. We all agree with that. Whether there are still Clemson fans that aren't excited about Brad Brownell returning as their head coach. But that is happening. I think the contract situation is really a behind-the-scenes slow burn right now that's going to happen.
Now, the other story, which may play a part into this, certainly if it wasn't on the front burner, it got moved to the front when this news came out today. ESPN.com reporting that a judge has ordered Florida State and the Atlantic Coast Conference to mediation to help settle that lawsuit. Story says the Tallahassee judge has ordered Florida State and the Atlantic Coast Conference to enter mediation in hopes of settling a high-profile lawsuit that could dramatically impact the future of the league. Judge John C. Cooper technically the ACC's motion to dismiss Monday, but gave Florida State 7 days to amend its complaint because the university needs more specificity regarding key facts in a case he said that is, quote, worth up to $500 million, end quote. The conference would have 20 days to respond afterward, and another hearing set The case is not over, Cooper said. The case will continue. He ordered the sides to begin mediation within 120 days, but a mediator cannot force an agreement, so the case could end up right back in court. But Smitty, as you and I were chatting off air, you made the perfect comment. You talked about the first paragraph or so of that story, that he's looking, Florida State has 7 days to amend its complaint because they don't have enough key facts in the case, according to at least the Tallahassee judge, who you would have thought would have been on Florida State's side.
Well, now, wait a minute, Chris. I don't know what we can say about our legal system, but it says something about the polarization of our country. We said the judge should have been on their side. I mean, the judge should be an unbiased arbiter, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
Sending the parties into mediation. And but you're right about this. You know, this tried in Tallahassee as opposed to Charlotte, where the ACC wanted it, which was a big blow to them. But I think I've read the Florida State's complaint, and essentially their complaint is we should be getting more money. Well, why? Because the SEC and Big Ten get more money, and the ACC is not getting enough based on, you know, the value that we bring. But and look, and they have a good point about this. I know that John Swofford, who was the commissioner at the time that the media rights were bargained out, I know that his son was an employee and you know, like a vice president at Raycom, and Raycom got a piece of this. So I think that, you know, that's something where, you know, that Florida State can plant its flag there and say that John Swofford wasn't looking out for the best interest of Florida State, but instead, member schools, instead looking out for the best interest of his family. That's fair, and that's something that they can debate there in court. But I don't know. Based on what I'm reading, it's hard for me. You know, maybe Florida State and Clemson, maybe they are worth more. North Carolina, Duke, they are worth more. But it's really, really hard to say that the ACC, to prove that the ACC didn't do its best back in 2009 when the financial landscape and media rights were largely different. That may have been the best deal they could have gotten from a conference that has Boston College in it at that time. So I think it's an uphill climb for Florida State.
The other fascinating part of the story is if you read further, ESPN reporting the Seminoles exit the ACC, that's not a surprise, and explore a more lucrative landing spot. They mentioned potentially the Big Ten. I think if you polled Seminoles fans to a man, woman, and child, they would all say we're going to the SEC, not the Big Ten. That would be, I think, a surprise to Florida State fans that that's actually where their university lands.
At 100%, but the Big Ten right now, they actually are paying their member schools slightly more than the SEC, but I don't know how many Florida State and Clemson fans you're going to find that don't want to be a part of the SEC if the time comes.
Well, the good news is we know this won't end anytime soon. One other note, tomorrow, Clemson at Georgia. Pitching matchup has been announced. Tigers will go with Billy Barlow. The Bulldogs will go with Zach Harris. That's going to be one of the primo midweek games of the season, the way those two teams are playing. Speaking of baseball, we'll go just a bit outside with Jim Tillman next here on Sports Talk.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and chilly overnight with a low dipping down to 42. Tomorrow is perfect. Bottle it up, enjoy it. All kinds of sunshine. 75 degrees as our high.
With Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio, we have beautiful, high-quality outdoor furniture in stock, including original Polly's Island, CRP, our recycled polymer line, great options from Kingston Casual and Telescope Casual too. Make a high-end statement without the high-end price. And remember, we deliver in Richland and Lexington counties too. Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio, 3303 Forest Drive, jackoliverpools.com.
Keith Peters reporting the Supreme Court is wrestling with major questions about the growing issue of homelessness as it considers whether cities can ban people from sleeping outside when shelter space is lacking. Monday's case is considered the most significant on homelessness to come before the High Court in decades. The White House is aiming to correct the short staffing at nursing homes that was exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The federal government, for the first time, is requiring minimum staffing levels at federally funded nursing homes. President Biden has told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky the U.S. will send badly needed air defense weaponry once the Senate approves a massive national security aid package that includes $60 billion for Ukraine. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 253 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Experience the joys of spring in full glory as you cut through the beautiful waters of Lake Murray on board your brand new boat from Marine 360. Take a look into the awesome selection of top-tier industry such as Sea Hunt and Crest. They're showcased at Marine 360. Hey, known for their unwavering commitment to excellent quality and service, Marine 360 has been the leading go-to source for boating enthusiasts since 2007, and they're based right in the heart of the Midlands. The dedicated owners of Marine 360, Brandon and Scott, well, they're on hand to steer you towards your dream boat. They make it a top priority to ensure you receive the best possible service. But they don't stop at helping you choose the perfect boat. Marine 360's meticulously skilled service center is at your command for any boating related issues. Find Marine 360 on the water on Johnson Marina Road or visit them online, marine360.com. To make your purchase even smoother, they offer a variety of financing. You need more information? Don't hesitate to give the guys a call, 749-2360. They're ready to help in making your dream boating experience a reality. Visit marine360sc.com.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Hey y'all, this is Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We'd like to invite you and your family to dine with us. We have a great menu that's sure to please your whole family. We have fresh cooked burgers, big juicy wings, blue plate menu featuring country cooking, oven-baked hoagies, fresh crisp salads, authentic Greek food like gyros, souvlaki, and baklava. We also carry 20 different premium cheesecakes and pies. Flight Deck Restaurant also has an arcade with 30 different games like Star Wars, Batman, Skee Ball, Bass Wheel, Pac-Man, Galaga, and so much more. Flight Deck, your favorite restaurant. Thanks y'all and God bless.
I've learned a lot in my years doing this, but I've never had my eyes opened wider than when I met the folks from Broker Solar and went to see their job sites. Everything I thought about solar power, well, I was wrong about. Now, I'm on board 100% as long as it's done right. Don't let the media, don't let the politicians guilt you about solar power. You want solar because it actually will save you money and give you some power literally and figuratively at the same time. It's amazing technology. What a great way to get rid of your monthly power bill. No more power outages. Instead of having to buy a generator, you just rely on solar battery from Broker Solar. Listen, I'm sick of having politicians tell me about green this, green that, but solar technology has advanced so much. So if you want to learn more, why don't you call the folks over at Broker Solar? This isn't some national thing. They are local. They're located right in Lexington. In fact, I've known the owner's family for many, many years. They are great. Online, it's brokersolar.com or call them 807-7417. That's 807-7417 for Broker Solar.
Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Big time baseball weekend in South Carolina. Gamecocks in Arkansas, Clemson, Pittsburgh. There were some really, really good series all around the state. The best way we know to recap it is every Monday nights we go just a bit outside with our good friend Jim Toman. So he joins us now to talk all things college baseball. Coach Toman, happy Monday to you, sir. How was your weekend?
Oh, I had a great weekend. Went up to NC State and saw the Wolfpack play North Carolina. I was there Thursday and Friday, and the Wolfpack won both of them. They're obviously my alma mater. That school was dumb enough to give me 2 degrees. And then I left on Saturday, and then the Tar Heels won. So I was good luck for 2 games, but that was enough for me. I had to head back to Lake Waccamaw. But I'm ready to talk about a really good weekend that we just had, if you guys are ready.
Absolutely. Before you get to your Toman Totes, though, I did pose the question to Matt Smith, who played collegiate baseball back in his day. And I wanted to get your take as well, because we had 3 doubleheaders this weekend because of the weather on Saturday that we paid particular attention to. Of course, the Gamecocks in Arkansas, Pittsburgh and Clemson, and then you also had Coastal Carolina and Louisiana. The teams that won the first game of the doubleheader on Saturday did not win the second game, South Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Louisiana. I was just curious, from your days in baseball and coaching and playing and the like, how difficult is it to sweep a doubleheader?
Well, it is difficult. I don't know what the odds are of sweeping it, but for the most part, when you play a doubleheader, most of the time, for some reason, it's 1-1. It's just hard to sweep unless the teams are just, so unevenly matched. But for the most part, sometimes at a mid-major, and if you're playing an SEC, ACC school, you want to play a doubleheader because, it's a long game, and if you win the first one, sometimes you have a tendency to let down in the second one. Same thing goes for like the Wolfpack. I had a lot of former players and former teammates that I met up there, and we won the first 2 games, and they all texted me and said, "Oh, we were happy with just winning the series." And North Carolina won the 3rd game. Well, usually it happens like that as well. It's hard to sweep, and if you win the first 2 games, it's just you just let down. The other team has a little bit more fire in them to win a game and not get embarrassed by a sweep. And it's very important to, when you have them weekend series, not to get swept, because that really hurts you. Just think about it this way: if South Carolina got swept by Vanderbilt at home, and their record right now is 9-9. South Carolina would be 6-12 right now, but they swept Vanderbilt, and now we're 9-9. We're looking good. We're in the 14th in the RPI. So, but getting back to the doubleheader, it's very difficult to win both of them unless you have 2 really good pitchers going. And sometimes you play 2-9, sometimes you play 9-7, sometimes you play 2 sevens, depending on the conference rules. So I can see how a lot of them split.
Mm-hmm. What would you have preferred? Did you like the 2 9s, or could you have gotten away with 2 7s?
Well, depending on what type of team I had. If I didn't have a lot of pitching, then I wanted 2 sevens and get out of Dodge. And most of the time, I need 2 sevens. That's a little bit quicker. It's a long day when you got 2 9s. Let me tell you that.
Absolutely. Big weekend. So what you got for us this Monday?
Well, Clemson, as you know, last week, they had Trufo got hurt, and I think he's scheduled to have ACL surgery maybe tomorrow, or did he have it last week? I think it might be tomorrow. And the other bad thing about that is Will Taylor is out as well. He dove in late in that NC State series on last Sunday, and he broke his wrist. So he's going to be out. I know you guys probably already talked about it, but that's 2 really winning players for Clemson, guys that had makeup and guys that brought that little added dimension, brought a little fire, and they were tough kids. Now, I think Clemson will get Will Taylor back maybe in the ACC tournament or hopefully in the regionals. But that's when depth is very important for these teams, and the ACC, SEC teams usually have other players. If it would have happened to a mid-major team, that's absolutely devastating. They just don't have the depth that some of these big-time conference schools have. But, Clemson's hanging in there still, 4 in the RPI, 32-7, still having a great year. 13-5 in the ACC. They dropped 1 to Pitt, but they're still first in the Atlantic. Looking at the other side in the, I think it's called the Coastal Division, UNC, even though they lost 2 out of 3 to NC State, they lead the ACC in the Coastal Conference and ACC overall. And I know they're not South Carolina, but I had to mention that Clemson is battling to win a regular season ACC Conference championship. So hopefully they'll pick it up this week. But, pretty good week for Clemson. They beat Charlotte, and then they beat Pitt 2 out of 3. They pretty much, stayed the same. They were 4 in the RPI. This week, they got another tough deal. They go to Georgia, who's 11th in the RPI, a good SEC program. And then they have to head to Louisville. Now, Louisville, for some reason, is only about 500 in the ACC right now. They're 23-16, and if the regional started tomorrow, they would not be in a regional. They're 84 in the RPI, so it's unusual that Dan McDonald's club is down like that. But I'm sure that they're going to have a little bit of heightened awareness against Clemson, knowing that they got to pick it up or they're not going to make a regional. I'm talking about Louisville. But I'm pretty sure that if Will Taylor makes it back, and I think Clemson will be fine as far as the depth goes, they do have a lot of depth. That's one thing when I sat down and talked to their coaches before the season started. I mean, they were giving me like 20 pitchers' names and about 20 position players' names that could be guys. So they really weren't sure who they had. But I think they'll have the depth to make sure down the stretch that they have enough guys to win. The Gamecocks, 14 in the RPI. Pretty good week. Beat the Citadel 4-3, and had some close games against Arkansas. Obviously, won the middle game, so at least we avoided that sweep. Arkansas obviously is in the top 1 or 2 now in the country, and there's no midweek game this week for the Gamecocks, but we will host another stud team. Kentucky's coming in here. We host them at 7, 6, and 3 p.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Kentucky has the number 3 RPI in the country, and they're leading the SEC overall, which is kind of crazy with all the good teams in the SEC. But Kentucky's 15-3 in the league, and they're 32-7. The Gamecocks are tied for 4th in the East with Georgia, and we're hanging in there. Our RPI is great to host. It would just be nice to really have a weekend where we win 2 out of 3 against the top 10 team, and just to kind of separate ourselves a little bit from the rest of the pack in the SEC. But Kentucky is very, very good, and they lead the SEC in a lot of categories, or they're first or second. I mean, they're pretty darn good, and they got to get back on track too, because Tennessee beat them 2 out of 3 last weekend. Arkansas is still leading the West at 14-4, but we're playing a team this weekend. It's 15-3, and they're looking like a national type seed. Coastal Carolina had a great week, as you know. They went up 9 in the RPI, and they're 13th now. I think they went from a team that might be a 2 seed and not hosting to being 3-1 this week, having 3 top 25 wins. I think they're a host team right now if the season were to end. I mean, that RPI went from like 22, so I think they're 13th right now. They're 27-12. They're 11-7 in the Sun Belt, and they're still 4 games behind Louisiana, but they beat Louisiana 2 out of 3. But now they're tied for second with Troy and Southern Miss. That league is looking more and more like a 3 or 4 bid league, and I'm talking about the Sun Belt. But having a week where they beat UNC in the midweek and beating Louisiana was the number 14th team in the country, and Coastal beat them 2 out of 3. It'll be pretty interesting. I talked to Coach Gilmore about his retirement, and this is his last year. And I said, well, you got to go back to Omaha. And I didn't realize it, but they're heading this week to Creighton, who's 49th in the RPI. And Creighton plays their games in Omaha at Schwab Field. So Coach Gilmore is definitely going back to Omaha. It's just in the midweek. And they're playing them twice, okay? And then they come back and they host Troy over the weekend, which is a good squad. But once again, I think Coastal probably went from just being in the regional to hosting the regional. So huge week for them. I did talk to the assistant coach, Coach Snall, and he said they moved Meckley, who was a rotation starter, big right-hander that throws hard. They moved him to the back end, and he pitched really well Friday and Saturday. So kind of look at that going forward. It looks like Meckley may end up being their closer, and it worked out. And that's something Coach Gilmore is really good at. He figures things out during the year. He's a heck of a manager during the course of the game, and that's why he's a Hall of Fame coach. The other team in the state making a run is College of Charleston. Coach Holbrook's squad is won 8 in a row. Their RPI went up 17 points. They're 28-10. They're getting in the regional talk mix right now. It's still 64 RPI, but they're 12-3 in the CAA, which means they're tied with UNC Wilmington for first. Wilmington does have a 42 RPI right now. That's another league that is pretty darn good. But and they could see, College of Charleston, UNC Wilmington, maybe even Northeastern. Maybe that's a 3-bid league. It's a little too early to tell. But I coached 1 year in that league with Coach Holbrook, and the CAA is a very, very tough conference. They also have a really good pitching coach down there at College of Charleston, and Will Dorton. I think 3 of their last 5 wins were shutouts, and when I was down there with Coach Dorton, he was really, really good. Liked how he called pitches, liked how he develops the players down there. Pitchers respond to him. So College of Charleston looking pretty well. They had a pretty darn good week, and when you gain 17 points in the RPI, that's a pretty good week. They play at the Citadel, and then I think they have to go to Campbell and play a 3-game set. Campbell isn't the team they were last year, but I think down the stretch here, if they have some older players that were part of last year's squad, they'll be a team to look into. But tough week coming up for Coach Holbrook's squad. USC Upstate lost 7 points in the RPI. It went down to 27-14. They're 75 in the RPI. Wofford is 54 in the RPI. Pretty good record at 26-11. I think in their conference, the Southern, I think Samford's leading it with they're 10-2 or 9-3. Wofford is 7-4. So they're going to have to win a couple games here in the conference and probably win the conference tournament to sneak in. PC had an 0-4 week, so their RPI went down by 24 points, so they didn't have a good week. Charleston Southern, they're 9-6 in the Big South, which is 4th in the conference. They're 17-23 overall. Winthrop had a rough week, and you could see how some of these mid-majors, just in 1 week, they lost 29 points in the RPI. So that RPI will kill you if you have a bad week. The Citadel, they're up 10 points in the RPI. It's 237. It's a low RPI, but the big news is that they picked up the first win in the conference with VMI. Just want to have 4 shout-outs, and I'll let you guys go. First of all, happy pass over to Phil. Tell him to get back in the shop, and tell him he needs to be on the radio when the big guy is. Coach Mike Bianco, Ole Miss, 1,000 wins for that guy. Mike Bianco, Ole Miss. You guys know where he played college ball at?
I do not.
That's a Citadel guy, isn't it? Yeah, the Citadel, wasn't it?
No, Mike Bianco.
He was a part of that 19.
Played for LSU. Skip Bertman. Mike Bianco did. Anyway, Coach Skyler Meade, former Gamecock pitching coach, won his 100th game at Troy. He's doing a nice thing with that program. And other thing that I had to say is Florence Darlington Tech clinched the Region 10 regular season for the 4th straight year. They'll be the number 1 seed in that JUCO tournament. That starts May 3rd in Lexington, South Carolina. So if you want to see some good junior college ball, Region 10 is always a good region at JUCO. Starts May 3rd through 6th in Lexington with Flodar being the number 1 seed. Had one bad shout out. There was a Vandy pitcher taken out of the game for a foreign substance. I'm not so sure what that was. I didn't get any follow-up on that, but he was taken out. So I hope these guys aren't trying to cheat. I know Coach Corbin doesn't allow that, so I was surprised to see that. But other than that, great week as normal. College baseball is heating up. We got to start talking about who's making the regionals, who's not, and how many teams from the SEC and the ACC, and how many teams from South Carolina are going to make it. And we'll talk more about that next week.
Coach Tillman, as always, we appreciate it. Have a great week, and we'll catch up back with you next Monday and anticipate Corn returning here to his normal time slot with you.
The big return of the guru. Let's go. You guys have a great week, man.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. It's Jim Tillman, just a bit outside here on Sports Talk every Monday night. And Smitty, I had not heard that story either. I just pulled it up. The NCAA actually has a rule against foreign substances for pitchers, a 4-game suspension. And it was Vandy pitcher J.D. Thompson who was ejected for Saturday's series finale against Florida. He actually had a 3-2 count with 2 outs in the 4th inning when umpires went out to the mound and examined his ball, glove, and forearm. And after a lengthy discussion, Thompson was ejected. Commodores held a 2-1 lead at the time.
Well, that reminds me of legendary Ed Harris, who said if the umpires are watching him real close, he likes to put a little jalapeno under his nose, get that running in case he needs it. Well, pitchers are always many pitchers, I should say, are looking for an edge. And this is actually something that's discussed quite heavily in Major League Baseball and on down. A lot of pitchers think the crackdown on the foreign substances, their pushback on this is that they weren't trying to get an unnatural movement from the baseball a la the spitball. They were trying to just control the ball. Just a little bit.
Fair argument.
I think there is something to it. It'd be a part of a longer discussion. We'd have to get a guy who pitched at a high level to really talk about it. But I heard Walker Buehler, and I've heard other pitchers who are right now who are suffering through injuries, who say that part of the reason that they had the injuries is because, for those that know the real nerds, there's something in StatCast about spin rate and all of these things, spin rate and velocity, and they're watching the pitchers closely and grading them on all of this. And you do some of this by putting additional pressure on the ball. Well, the way you put pressure on the ball puts additional strain on your UCL in your elbow, which is what's leading to a lot of these injuries. Now, and so the pitcher's pushback is one of the ways to prevent this would be to allow more sticky substances to come back. And also they're pushing back against the pitch clock, that they think they're being rushed a little bit. And then, of course, there are myriad other arguments about, kids throwing curveballs when they're 13 years old, having Tommy John surgery before they're even out of high school, everybody recruiting and drafting based on velocity and spin rate. So anyway, there's a lot of arguments, and it is a multifaceted conversation. But if you ask me, and I was never a pitcher, always a position player, but if you were to ask me, is there some validity to what they're saying? I'm starting to buy into it because I'm hearing a lot of retired pitchers like John Smoltz and others talk about it as well, guys who I really respect, who say that, you need to allow more stickiness and more substances than they are because it's about control, not movement. I can believe some of that.
Can you make the ball tackier, like footballs? Footballs are slick, but there is some tackiness to them.
It's another element to this, Chris. What do you see? What does everybody their whole lives see as soon as they see a pitcher catch a baseball back from a fresh ball? They rub it up. They rub it up, put dirt on their hands. They're doing everything they can. People might remember, Greg Maddux went to his mouth, not illegally, I'm saying. He went to his mouth, off the mound, and just to get a little moisture on his fingertips.
Right.
Which is part of the reason people hate pitching in Colorado is that lack of humidity. There's like you're talking about, the balls feel slick. There's nothing on them. Another advantage for the hitters. So yeah, I think there's a little something for the pitchers. Although if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and then we'll have sandpaper and Vaseline under the caps again. But I think to answer your question, I think there is some validity. And yeah, I'm sorry I missed what Coach was saying. Yeah, I was thinking of Chris Lamanis from Mississippi State.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Yeah, he played at the Citadel. Yeah, Mike Bianco was an LSU player, and what a coach! I mean, and look, we're in a baseball state. We are in a baseball state, but you talk about a state that gets it done in a depressed economy, and I mean not our current economy. I mean a depressed state. Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they're not exactly rolling in dough in the Magnolia State, and Ole Miss and Mississippi State have had elite baseball programs. The real tip of the cap to Lamanis and Bianco, both national champions.
And speaking of college baseball, before we wrap things up here tonight, and don't forget tomorrow night we'll talk some NASCAR with Josh Harris, president of Darlington Raceway. Phil will be back as well. But one thing we overlooked, did not mention from the Clemson series over the weekend, Smitty, game 2 with the Tigers winning by a score of 9-2. That was their 900th all-time ACC regular season win in program history. And sort of panning back to that conversation we were having right before the bottom of the hour about Florida State's legal issues and Clemson possibly trying to get out of the Atlantic Coast Conference, the question that has to be on your mind if you're a Tigers fan, 1,000 regular season victories in any conference is remarkable. The question is, will Clemson get an opportunity to go after that? Or will they be playing baseball in a new league in 3, 4, 5 years, which would be about the time that Eric Bakich, you would presume, and his team would have a shot to reach that milestone?
I have to believe that Clemson is not long for the ACC. I think these are irreconcilable differences between the ACC and the top earners, the most prominent programs. North Carolina isn't necessarily saying a lot, but all we keep hearing are reports that they're going to bolt. As soon as Florida State finds a crack, then Clemson and North Carolina and maybe others are going to follow them right out the door. So to your question, will Clemson reach 1,000 wins, ACC wins in baseball? I don't think so. And I, for one, Chris, I lament that. I like Clemson in the ACC. I like North Carolina and Duke in the ACC. I've grown to like Florida State in the ACC. I sometimes, I kind of get a little Phil Kornblut. I want it to go back to the old ways. I like the old 9-team ACC. And I know we're not going back there. I know we won't. But for me, it would be a sad day if the schedules are coming out and I see Miami's in the Big Ten, or Clemson is not playing North Carolina in Chapel Hill, or against North Carolina at all, not going to Chapel Hill anytime ever, just aren't going at all. Or what about this? How about North Carolina and Duke playing their rivalry game December 15th? Not playing twice, not closing the regular season, not meeting in the conference tournament. Those two fan bases would be able to get together just once, and it would be in December when we're all paying attention to the college football playoff. I think it would be a sad day.
I agree.
It's happening. It's happening.
It probably is. But I just thought that stunned me over the weekend with 900 regular season wins, and I immediately thought, all right, 1,000 5 years down the road, maybe 6, they may not be in the ACC that long. So sad state of affairs, or it's a good state of affairs. There's another way to look at this as well. And if Clemson and Florida State want to move on, everybody else is. Why shouldn't they? All right, folks, that's going to do it. We appreciate you dialing us up on this Monday. Our thanks to Johnny Roscoe for visiting with us here tonight. And also thanks to Jim Toman talking some college baseball. Smitty, thank you, sir. Always enjoy it. You have a great rest of your week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to baseball this week, Clemson and Georgia.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Josh, have a great Monday. We will talk to you back here tomorrow on Sports Talk.